Cowboys may not control their own destiny. However, there is still hope they're able to make the playoffs, so don't fret yet, Cowboys Nation. If the Cowboys beat the Redskins this week and the Giants beat the Eagles, Dallas becomes your NFC East champion and has a way into the playoffs. Welcome into Cowboys Rewind. I'm Dani Sureck. The Cowboys had the division within arm's reach last week. However, their loss to Philadelphia gave the Eagles the upper hand to now have the top spot in the division. It was an ugly loss for the Cowboys in every phase of the game. The Cowboys' #1 ranked offense didn't put up a single touchdown, and the injury-riddled Eagles offense put up 17 points on Dallas's defense. The Cowboys players have all acknowledged this week that they can't go back in time and they shouldn't be focused on what needs to happen in the Giants-Eagles game. All they can do is focus on beating the Redskins.
It sucks. It's frustrating, disappointing, but once again, all we can control is what we can control. Focus on this game, winning this game, and if we're fortunate, we'll make the most of it when that time comes.
Does the fact that there is that little sliver of hope out there sort of outweigh the disappointment that I would imagine you guys feel right now?
One more time?
The fact that you still have a shot, I'm sure you guys are disappointed this week.
Yeah, I mean, it may subside the disappointment and give you a little bit of hope, but you're for sure disappointed, you're frustrated. As I said, even losing the games that we've lost all year, we've always been able to say, hey, we're still in control. We still control our destiny, and that's gone. So that's obviously frustrating, but you can't come in, have a hangover. You can't feel sorry for yourself. Nobody does. Nobody feels sorry for us. So it's about coming in, executing, as I said, controlling what we can, and giving ourselves a chance. So when that happens, we're ready to go.
Does the feeling of it shouldn't have come to this outweigh any hope about what this weekend could bring in terms of a potential playoff berth?
I'm not thinking of any should've, would've, could've right now. It's about focusing on getting this win, and simple as that. And as I said, if we're fortunate and we look up and we get the end, we'll be ready to go and we'll make the most of it. But as of right now, we can't focus on anything but the Redskins.
Our message this week, we got to control what we can control, and what we can control is go out there and play well versus Washington, and then, we'll see what happens from there.
How is it difficult to imagine how you guys have gotten yourselves into this situation where?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing. Obviously, I think at the start of the year, no one could have foreseen this, but you know what? This is reality, and like I said, the only thing we can do now is go out there, play well, and win on Sunday, and then, obviously hope for New York to pull it out. Listen, whatever happens, happens, and I think, we've said it all year, but guys are focused for this game. You know what I mean? I don't think. We'll come to that point when it comes up, but right now, like I said, we're focused on Sunday and going out there and playing well and finishing the regular season strong.
Guard Zack Martin was asked if he's ever cheered for the Giants before, and he laughed and said no, but I definitely will be this week. Martin and the rest of the offensive line have only allowed 20 sacks to quarterback Dak Prescott, which is the fewest in the league. That protection will be important this week because Prescott is still nursing an injury to his right shoulder, his throwing arm. Prescott was limited in practice last week before the Eagles game and this week as well, which was the first time in his career he's ever been limited before. Prescott says that his shoulder did not hinder him in any way in that Eagles game, and he's been resting up this week to make sure he's ready to go against Washington. Should Prescott just let it rip down the field and throw the ball a lot, or should he hand it off more? Special Edition tells the truth right after the break.
Cowboys Rewind is brought to you by AT&T Academy, the official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys, and by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full access to coaches' film and game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass.
All year, the Cowboys have struggled with inconsistency and slow starts, forcing them to dig themselves out of a hole. However, when they get a hot start and they get rolling, they've shown what they're capable of. How much of those struggles fall on the coaching staff? In this week's Special Edition, Bill Jones, Nate Noon, and Rick Gosselin discuss where the trouble lies and whose shoulders they fall on.
This team is 0-8 when they are trailing at halftime. Now the glass half full, they are 7-0 when they are ahead at halftime.
I tell you, that's right here, brother, and I'm glad that you let me speak first. They make no adjustments at halftime, no physical or visible adjustments at halftime. At least you don't see it through the way the players play. Yes, this falls squarely on the coaches to make those adjustments, especially when our secondary has been riddled away with passes. No adjustments. Sorry, coach, had to tell the truth.
Yeah, they're not ready to play. You look at the Jets game. Jets are 0-4. They're last in the NFL in offense, and they're up 21-6 at halftime. Green Bay comes in here with no weapons. Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, no receivers, and they're up 17-0 at halftime. This team is not ready to play in games that matter.
You say, we do what we do it how we do it, just got to do it a little better. We all know, as experienced football people around this table, that you make minor adjustments as games go on. Then you make 1 or 2 minor adjustments at halftime that's supposed to change the fate of your team or have that ability to change the fate of your team. This team is 0-8 when following. That cannot happen in the National Football League.
And where's the sense of urgency? Last week was the biggest game of the season, maybe the biggest game of Jason Garrett's tenure. You're down 10-0 to a team with no weapons and an injury-riddled defense. I mean, they just weren't ready to play going into that game for whatever reason.
All right, another guy in the last year of his contract. Of course, the Cowboys have control of Dak Prescott with a possible franchise tag. We'll see where the contract negotiations go. But tell the truth, Dak Prescott, and here's a number for you. When Dak Prescott in his career throws 30 or more passing attempts, 19-20 record. Goose?
Not good. I think, and I said this about Tony Romo, the less Dak passes, the more I like it. The more Zeke runs, the more I like the Cowboys. And they've got to find that balance. You can't ask Dak to throw 30 and 40 times a week. He's 3-8 when he throws 40 times in a game, including 5 times in the last 7 weeks. 5 losses in the last 7 weeks, by the way.
He's lost that love and feeling. He used to move around, make things happen. He would go through the possessions of his reads. He don't do that anymore. He stands back there, he looks, and he fires deep. I mean, we used to be a type of team that dinked and dunked and got down the field because we wanted to get as many plays as we could to help our defense. Now we're 3 and out. This game passed, 3 and out, 3 and out. One big play of 41 yards, then we back 3 and out. That hurts the whole team. Dak's got to find that love.
And the other thing, throughout the league, quarterbacks are running. They've set a record for quarterback touchdowns, and this is the one place where the quarterback isn't running, and this is a guy who can run, and that's an element that the defense can't really accommodate for.
You can watch Special Edition Saturday nights at 11 on CBS 11. Most of this Cowboys team is the same as it was last year, so they've been in a backs-against-the-wall situation before. In 2018, the Cowboys didn't win back-to-back games since Week 10 after acquiring wide receiver Amari Cooper from Oakland. If most of the team is the same, why can't they handle adversity the same this time around? We'll try to answer that next. Throughout the season, every player deals with their fair share of nicks and bruises. However, the Cowboys have remained relatively healthy this season, so there's no obvious reason as to why there's been such inconsistency and a lack of production by this team. The Cowboys' #1 ranked offense has had 2 games where they haven't scored a touchdown. This defense has the fewest takeaways in the league with just 6, and they have gone through 2 separate 3-game losing streaks. The Talkin' Cowboys podcast tried to pinpoint where this lack of success is coming from.
This is a young team that was even younger last year that started 3-5, and all of a sudden you get Amari Cooper, and they grew up. They grew up down the stretch. They were able to win closer games because I think the experience benefited them. And to y'all's point, 0-6 in games decided by 1 score or less this year.
Yeah,
and some
1-1.
And some of these games haven't been close, and they haven't shown the same resolve against adversity on the road, particularly.
That is the best word. We have no resolve. It seems like every time we hit some type of adversity, we're ready to buckle. We're ready to buckle. It takes us, and then when we do buckle, it takes us a while. We're reeling for so long, and then at the end of the game, here we are. Oh, got a chance, guys. We're still in it. You know,
it's like a distance runner who coasted, and then that last lap, okay, let me turn it on.
My high school track coach hated that. You come sprinting across in a mile run, he's gonna.
Like, what have you been doing?
You will hear his voice all over the stadium. The late John Freeman, God rest your man, rest in peace. But I'm just saying, that's kind of how it is. We always take sometimes even a game to make adjustments. Going back to Atlanta, Dak gets the heck beat out of him. One guy makes a Pro Bowl on him in one game.
Made his career.
In 2017,
Claiborne.
But look how long it took. We didn't even make the adjustment that game. Mm-hmm. We didn't even put in 2 tight ends that game. We didn't even have a back to chip him that game.
Yeah, well, the next time they started Cameron Fleming, they had 2 tight ends in.
You can listen to the Talking Cowboys podcast weekdays at 11 a.m. The Cowboys need to find a way to overcome whatever it is that's holding them back in Sunday's must-win game against the Redskins. Washington is banged up in pretty much every position, so the Cowboys matchups won't be the same as they were in Week 2 when these teams last met. Don't go anywhere. A deeper look into those next. Welcome back to Cowboys Rewind. The last Cowboys-Redskins matchup in Week 2 ended favorably for Dallas with a 31-21 victory on the road. However, this Washington team does not look the same because of injuries at almost every position. The Cover 4 crew breaks down what those new matchups are going to look like and who you should have your eye on in Sunday's game.
Let's go to behind enemy lines. Talk about some of these Redskins we are going to be facing. Just a quick reminder, back in Week 2 when the Cowboys beat Washington. Yes, they did.
They did do
Remember that shock where they held Adrian Peterson to, what was it, 21 rushing yards?
Yeah, they looked like world beaters in this game, man. Devin Smith was on the active roster in that game.
Smith.
No, I'm not throwing shade. That might have been the last ball Devin Smith caught this year, honestly. I think it was.
What a highlight reel, though, for him.
Is this scary when you started tuning in and watching the Cowboys? Were you pretty impressed by Kellen Moore at this point?
At this point, I thought Kellen Moore had all the juice. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking this guy's going to have this offense going off the scales. And they have been. I mean, they put up a lot of yards and a lot of great ratings, but, you know, some people say those are garbage time stats. But I thought at this point in time, Kellen Moore was on the hierarchy on his way up.
They looked
Look at how happy they were.
Yeah, so good.
Dak's running off like undefeated
Norman.
here.
I mean, it was a great time.
Do we have any matchups that have been just on your mind throughout this holiday season, David?
Can we talk about how hard I had to look for a matchup? Because, no, seriously, do you know how banged up this Washington roster is right now?
It doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't matter. I'm saying I don't even know any good players on this team. I'm going with Montez Sweat and Lyle Collins because Ryan Kerrigan is on IR, just like everybody else on this Redskins roster.
Yeah.
So Montez Sweat, if you don't remember, first-round pick out of Mississippi State, fell in the draft a little bit due to an irregular heartbeat, I believe. Very, very, very good player that they got at a discount. I think Lyle will get the better of this right now. He's got 5 sacks on the year. He's still growing as a player, but this is a name to know just moving forward. So it will be a good look at the young guys on this roster because guess what? There's nobody else who can play for the Redskins right now. They are hurt, man.
Yes.
Yeah, seriously.
My matchup is also 2 guys that were on the injury report yesterday, Morgan Moses and DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence obviously didn't practice yesterday. Not a concern. He will definitely be playing in this game. And I think in this matchup, DeMarcus actually has a lot on the line mentally. This was a bad season for him. One he probably wants to forget after becoming the highest paid player in Cowboys franchise history. He only has 5 sacks on the year. Eat up against Morgan Moses, who's dealing with a knee injury this week. Don't let Adrian Peterson be a dominating force in this game. DeMarcus Lawrence, come on, do it this week.
Yeah, you led right into my matchup. I got a matchup of 2 veteran players. I got AP, Adrian Peterson, and Sean Vintage Lee. Now, Adrian Peterson, it's in his 14th season, I believe. He's still playing at an extremely high level. He has over 800 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns, and in between the tackles, he still has that explosiveness, that violence, that speed that we've seen in his rookie year. I mean, if you give this guy a little sliver, he can take the ball 70 to 80 yards. You do not want to sleep on Adrian Peterson for this matchup. Now, the next guy, Sean Vintage Lee.
This is like the AARP
It is.
matchup of the
I'm telling you, I'm breaking it all down. I'm breaking it all down. Sean Lee, this guy, see, you mess up my whole day. I don't even know what's going on now. Sean Lee, go out there, Vintage Lee, do what you got to do, beat these guys up, and hopefully they get a chance to go into the playoffs.
It is veteran matchup.
It is veteran.
If they were playing at noon, I would say it's the early bird special, but they bumped the game back to 3:30.
They're still hitting the matinees.
Yeah, it's a matinee.
In week 2 against Washington, the Cowboys put up almost 500 offensive yards. Quarterback Dak Prescott threw 3 touchdowns, and running back Ezekiel Elliott ran 1 in. The Cowboys defense allowed just 255 yards, the fewest they've allowed all season. On the other side of the break, we'll hear from veteran linebacker Sean Lee on how he's feeling in his 10th year in the league and much more. Stick around. Linebacker Sean Lee and tight end Jason Witten are 2 of the most experienced players on this Cowboys roster, partially because they're also 2 of the oldest. Lee is 33 and Witten 37. Both have played their entire careers in Dallas, making an impact on both this franchise and the league. Witten retired in 2018 to become an ESPN broadcaster for Monday Night Football before returning on a 1-year deal to the Cowboys this year. Lee says he's now thinking about his longevity in this league. Lee joined Brad Sham on this week's Cowboys Hour podcast to share his experiences with Witten and how he's feeling in his 10th year in the NFL.
First thing, he's great to be around. He's a great guy. Obviously, I've talked about it, but he's so much fun. He loves the game. He's hilarious. He's got so much great character whether it comes to how he plays and then how he interacts with everybody. So having him back this year has been so much fun for everybody, I think, and for me. And then the advice that you get, because it's for him, he's a couple years ahead of me, and so it's almost like a big brother who has experienced certain things and gone through it, and then has some great advice for you. And getting to a point in this year and not quite being where we want to be, and throwing everything everything into it that we have, that's frustrating. And so that's what fuels you, though, from why you continue to play, because you're thinking to yourself, hey, I can still help us. We still have that goal of winning that Super Bowl ahead of us, and you feel unsatisfied. And I tell young guys all the time, and when you get to the end of your career and you don't have a Super Bowl, you feel like you've done nothing. You feel like you haven't accomplished something, and it sits with you, and so that's what fuels us half the time. Is let's go. We still have a shot. We still can help out. Let's go get this, and that feeling doesn't go away. And I think probably until you do get it.
Now, my eyes tell me that both of you still fall into the category of you can still help. That you may not, either one of you, want to play as many snaps as you did, in your 3rd or 4th year, respectively. But my eyes tell me that you are both still useful players. Sometimes it's not all up to you about whether the team feels the same way for the money. But here's my question. I think it's a rare athlete, especially one who loves it as much as you two do. I think it's a rare athlete who can know when my body can't keep up with my mind anymore. I see it just as well, but my legs won't get there, or they won't do it for as long. And so have you talked about, and do you individually think about, how will I know when my body just won't let me do what I have been able to do and what I want to do?
I think you see it on tape a little bit. I mean, you see it athletically.
Not with you, because you can still run. But
that's part of it. I mean, you still look at yourself, and you have to give yourself an honest assessment of how are you moving athletically. Because at the end of the day, you have to be a good athlete. You got to be able to run and get to certain spots and make plays. And then there is, I think, as you get older, things that were automatic sometimes quite aren't automatic. And so, for
instance,
certain tackles, certain, I'm sure, any position, whatever, you're in a position to make a play, and you've made that every time, and now there's certain times that you don't make it, and so the variation, I think, in play can start to just be a little bit off, and that's frustrating for anybody, and you fight to keep playing, but then there's the thought of, okay, I can't affect the team in a negative way. I mean, that's ultimately if I'm going to hurt the team, then I can't play anymore, because I'm not going to live with that. But you look at yourself and say, am I making the plays that I've made in the past? How am I moving? am I reacting the right way? And I think when when you feel good and fresh and you're healthy and you look and you're hoping, I think that's really what your guiding light on it.
Earlier this week, tight end Jason Witten said he's not approaching this game as though it could be his last in the league. He says he has the same mindset he does every other game throughout the year. Right now, he's just focused on beating Washington. Sunday's game is the last Cowboys game of the decade, and a lot has changed since 2010. That was the year we got iPads, Harry Potter movies were still coming out in theaters, and I got my license to legally drive. The Cowboys roster looks drastically different now than it did that year, with a few exceptions. Tight end Jason Witten, linebacker Sean Lee, and long snapper Alpi Ladouceur were still on the Cowboys roster even before 2010. There are a few current Cowboys coaches who were players at the time on this team. John Kitna, Andre Gerard, Mark Colombo, and that was also the year Jason Garrett took over as interim head coach for Wade Phillips. The team's last game of the decade kicks off at 3:25 Sunday against the Washington Redskins. However, Cowboys pregame live starts at 2 p.m. on all Dallas Cowboys platforms, and you can get exclusive content, what matchups to look for, and so much more. That's Cowboys Rewind. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm Dani Sureck. Happy New Year.
Cowboys Rewind was brought to you by AT&T. SWBC Mortgage, financial solutions to help you meet your personal and business goals. Visit swbc.com. And by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. Want to tour AT&T Stadium? For more information, call 817-892-TOUR or visit dallascowboys.com/tours.